Welcome to the podcast for online fitness coaches. We're Benji Tucker and Ethan Gonzalez, and together we scaled each of our fitness businesses from 0 to 80K in just 4 months. On this podcast, you'll hear how to get more online fitness clients, make more profit from each of them, how to keep them longer, and the many failures and lessons we have learned on our path to a combined 160K per month. Today, we will be teaching you exactly how to attract rich clients that will pay you $10,000 each. So this is a very popular podcast episode by request from lots of you guys asking us to make this. And the reason why is because we heard a lot of people saying we're getting horrible quality leads. We can't stand all the people showing up to the calls broke. We just can't stand it, right? You're getting like McDonald's employees in their bio following your page. What do you do about it? So Ethan, what do we do about it? What is the first thing
Yeah,
understand as we start to break this down?
I would say the first thing is, who you're actually targeting should be the main priority, right? So this touches a little bit into your avatar, your offer, but your profile really needs to be consistent with who you actually want to target. You want to touch briefly on what that looks like compared to what most people think it is versus what it actually is.
Yeah, so first let's just go over like the targeting itself of like who your client avatar is. If you're just saying I help busy men, guess what? All men are busy, right? In one way, or at least they think they are. I help 9 to 5 like workers. Okay. There's most 9 to 5 workers are broke as shit. The
Yeah.
ones that make more money either work less or they work more. They don't work a 9 to 5. Okay. Um, so you got to be very specific about who you target and what position usually they have too. Everyone nowadays is targeting corporate men or
Mhm.
like, busy executives.
Yeah.
First of all, this is a two-parter, right? Because busy executives, there's a million types of executives, different industries, all these different things. Corporate men, well, I mean, if you just work for a corporation, which almost every white collar person does, you're a corporate man. You could still make $50,000 a year as a corporate worker. Okay, so
True.
we have to be very specific about what type of corporate worker this is, and also have that sort of reflect in our content. Now, a lot of people where they go wrong is they put in their bio, "Hey, I help corporate men," and then their content is so freaking basic. It's so cookie cutter, right? You can't just say corporate executives and be a kid on a camera in your bedroom. Like
Yeah.
this is what people get roasted for on the internet and why there's distrust in the industry in the first place.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things in terms of your content. Like if you don't look at all like your avatar, I don't look like my avatar, for example. I work with corporate executive women. How are they going to trust a 20-year-old kid? Because the way that I present myself is the way that they would want to be presented to. So it's about that sophistication between the two. Like if you interact the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go through what that looks like when we get to the section talking about your Instagram profile. But the second biggest way to sort of, speak to rich people and actually like sort of extract them from the broader market of people looking to drop fat or build muscle is solving more sophisticated problems. You can't just be like everyone else that says, I'm going to help you lose weight. I'm going to help you build
Mhm.
muscle. I'm going to help you get into shape, because everyone could do that. And if everyone could do something, it's basic economics. It's less valuable, right? Because
Yeah.
for a million fitness, like let's say it's a very saturated industry in general, there's a million coaches out there. Well, almost all million of those people do the exact same thing.
Mhm.
So why would someone pay more money for the exact thing they could go down the street and get it for significantly cheaper? There's no reason they would. But if
Exactly.
there's something that they could go down the street and they say, "Holy shit, this was such a better experience." Like imagine 2 restaurants, right? You go to one, you go to McDonald's. Oh, okay, well, let me go down the street, try this other experience, and the food is better, the waiter is better, the ambiance is better, there's live music. It creates a whole experience that's exclusive, and not
Yeah.
every place is doing that. There's 10 fast food places, but there's only one of those.
Mhm. And I'll say on top of that, I'll touch on a couple different things. Like the first thing is if you're basically saying the same information as everyone else, you just blend into the crowd. Oh, you got to get more steps. You got to eat less and you got to move more. Like that's pretty much everybody. The unique selling propositions from 5 years ago that coaches are teaching are like, oh, tell every single client you can eat whatever you want, train however you want, and still lose weight. Like that used to be the coolest thing. That was the best way to sell like a couple years ago. But the market is so used to that because everyone says it now that that's now the new normal. Honestly, the more executive level people that I work with, they actually want something more personalized and something more tailored. And they honestly want you to do it for them. They don't want to be able to eat anything. They want to actually optimize their blood work. They want to optimize their hormones. They want to, use biohacking methods to get better results in terms of their day-to-day life, their energy and things like that. So if you're selling a solution that's eat whatever you want, train however you want, still lose weight, you're missing out on the people who would actually be able to afford higher prices.
And you make yourself look like everyone else, so that's very inclusive. And the people who have more money, it's already an exclusivist group, so they want someone that is exclusive.
Yeah. And especially too, if you get on a call, like this is the second point I was going to make. If you get on a call and somebody's like, it's a lot of money. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, I got a couple calls booked with other coaches. I could go check them out. They probably have it for cheaper, the same price or whatever. Then you're just not an important solution. Again, you're that typical coach out there who sells the same service everyone else does for the same price. And you offer the same services of like your pillars are nutrition, exercise, and accountability. How many people do you think pitch those same three pillars? Right. So if you pitch the same pillars as everyone else and your price is $100 more than the next coach, they're going to go with the next coach. Versus if you have a whole different offer for this specific avatar and you're the only person that can do it and you charge twice the price or 3 times the price, then they're going to see you as valuable or exclusive, right? Because you're priced higher. Obviously, your service has to be better.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be in more demand.
Absolutely. I think something that's like really relevant here and speaks exactly to what you said about everyone having the same unique mechanism and all these things is the Breakthrough Advertising book by Eugene Schwartz, because he talks about like the 5 stages of market sophistication, and the third stage, just the third one, is this market needs a new device to make the old claims become fresh, right?
Yeah.
The fourth one is elaborating on it to make it easier and quicker. Guess what? At this point, we're already well past the 4th stage because the market has heard everything about it's just a competition now. Who can make it easier? Who can make it quicker? And all these things. But because everyone is being taught to do that by a mentor now without the actual principles laid out, everyone has this same unique proposition of you could do this really fast. You could do this really easily. Instead, the 5th stage of market sophistication now, the emphasis shifts from the promise and the mechanism like to accomplish it to like actually identifying with the prospect themselves, right?
Yeah.
Bringing the prospect in through not just desire, but through like identification of their specific problems and, providing a specific solution to that.
Definitely. And I think something that kind of will bring it into relevancy, not just in our business, but like if you right now are stuck at like 5K a month and you're offering, eat whatever you want, train however you want, still lose weight, like the things that people are talking about. Right. And you're like, okay, well, then the solution must be that I have to have, something completely crazy, a crazy offer that I can't speak to, or, doing some crazy thing. And you got to up your level of service and you got to, be with them 24/7. Like, sure, those things you can add on. But just for perspective, the like number one fitness company in the world right now that does like $4 million a month, they literally do exercise, training, nutrition. Right. So the difference, though, is that company speaks to the highest level of problems, and it's all about solving the client's problems and really resonating with the avatar. And the training program itself is the lowest thing that matters because they guarantee results. It's all about the client. It's all about the experience, the valuable experience they have versus the coach that you work with or the exercise plan that you have or the diet plan.
There's so much you do at training anyways, like,
exactly.
Like fundamental movements that every single person does. You train close proximity to failure. You use good technique. Well, what's next? Anyone could do that.
Yeah. And so that's what I think we want to dive into a little bit is kind of how can you create that experience for a client that is like a white glove service, even though you don't have to spend every single second with them. Like we're not teaching you, oh, you got to work with your client 5 hours a week. You got to have 5 video calls with them. No, that doesn't mean that you raise your price.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can only raise your price when you give more It just means that you solve better problems. You can raise your price and actually takes less time.
Well, I think that's a great question. I think my intuition says it depends on what the problem is in the first place. Because if they do have a large problem, then it means the solution will be more specific than everyone else's, and it will be something that they might have not heard of before, or that requires extreme like levels of expertise. So an example would be, I'll give an extreme example actually that like I don't know how to solve myself. Let's say you have a spinal sort of issue. You have back pain, and it's a very specific type of pain that only like 10 doctors in the world could solve. Okay. 10 doctors in the world could solve it. So if you have that pain and it's excruciating, you've had it for 20 years, how much money would you be willing to pay this one guy that knows how to solve this issue? Probably tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. So it, there's specialized knowledge for specialized problems. If a female has a hormonal issue, well, then you can specialize in that thing. You can't just snap your fingers and do that, though. You need to invest in yourself to learn how to solve that particular problem. A lot of my guys have insulin resistance problems. They're pre-diabetic, they're diabetic. They struggle with their blood sugar. So I'm an expert in reading their blood work and helping them lower their blood sugar, lower their A1C levels. And that sort of inherently becomes the mechanism through which I help them drop fat, right? For other, it's helping them optimize their testosterone levels. Maybe that's your whole shtick. But those are, those are solutions that solve higher level problems. And it requires a certain level of expertise that does inherently separate yourself from the rest of your market. So you hear all these mentors saying, you have to separate yourself. You have to be specific. They don't freaking tell you how to do it.
Exactly.
Just told you.
Yeah. Like, and just to wrap it up, all that means to you basically is you can't just say, I work with entrepreneurs and then post generic content. If you're going to work with entrepreneurs, you got to solve entrepreneur level problems. If you solve entrepreneur level problems, you find out the deeper rooted issues, you can charge more. So you'll make more money. Just basic overview. Like, that's all you really have to think about in general.
Yep. Absolutely. So do you want to go into content now and just like kind of how that looks and, on the person we're trying to target?
Yeah. So I would say, like, in my own experience, when I was running, when I'm running my business, honestly, it's, if you have a profile photo and it's you with your shirt off at the gym and you're targeting older men and you're a younger guy, they don't care. Right.
Yep.
This doesn't matter. Like, they just don't care, because what are they going to expect? Oh, this young kid, he doesn't know how to work out. It's different for me. I got kids. I got these business things going on. And he doesn't get it. Right. So the more professional you can be in your profile photo, obviously the better. Another thing too, make sure your username is consistent with kind of your brand and everything like that. So make sure that maybe it's coach in your name, maybe it's fit, maybe it's whatever, but just
your name. Like, don't make it like, Twinkie Dink 69, like Diddy Lover 69 or something like that, Make it your name.
Make it your name, make it your, for me, it's Gonzalez Coaching, right? I probably could have a better name for it, but whatever, right? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that much. Other than that, really simple stuff around the Instagram bio. Like, again, don't just put you help corporate executive men if you don't actually post content about it, but that should be in the bio. And then your link in bio should be your VSL. That's simple stuff.
Exactly.
Now, diving into the content, like, if you want to touch on content first, Benji, and then I'll touch it based on like my own experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this relates to your content. This relates to your ads. This relates to your VSL. This relates to your stories. It relates to everything. A lot of people, they just want to go out and make basic ass freaking content about like, hey, here's the 3 best ways to lose fat. Here's this. Guess what? Everyone makes that content, so you can't do that. You have to show, like, you can't just put in your bio, I help people solve like insulin resistance and not talk about it. If you're helping someone solve insulin resistance, every single video is going to be, hey, here's 3 supplements that naturally help you, lower your blood sugar levels. Here's ways to drop your A1C so that you could drop fat, right? Every single piece of content has to redundantly revolve around that. And so that alone is going to help attract people with more money, because it is a deeper rooted problem and people know they have to dish out more money, or at least are willing to dish out more money to do that. The second thing is the subtle things, right? That actually make a tremendous difference. So it's not just about what you say, but it's where and how you're saying it. So the first thing is your environment, right? So if you're targeting, let's say remote workers, Well, are you filming at a sort of position that these people can resonate with at a home desk with a computer in front of you? That would work really well. What do you wear?
Yeah.
Right? Are you shirtless targeting a 60-year-old man with diabetes? Because they're not going to resonate with that. They just don't care, right? They're just going to look at you as a gym bro on a beach instead of someone that actually could, like, imagine like a 60-year-old guy going to the doctor and his doctor is just shirtless, right? That's
Yeah.
the levels of how like incongruent it would be.
Yeah.
The words you use, don't say freaking bro when you're targeting a 50-year-old executive. They don't
Mhm.
say bro, okay? Maybe in 20 years they will, but they don't right now. The topics discussed, as I already touched on, and then the situations referenced as well. So, if you're subtly kind of speaking to, well, I'll give you an example in a hook. Instead of just saying, here's a 3 easiest ways to lose fat, like it could be, if you hate the way you're fat, rolls over your work pants, or like a specific part about the uniform that that person wears, or
Yeah.
you're referencing a situation that makes them feel very uncomfortable. Hey, you're at the pool vacationing the 2 weeks out of the year that you have with your wife and kids, and you're afraid to take off your shirt because of that. It's like, well, you're referencing the fact that they have a short period of time off relative to their job, that they have a wife, that they have kids. You're referencing a situation specific to that person. So, all of these things alone, first in the ad will dictate, algorithmically, the Facebook ad will go find people that this resonates with more. More people will click on your page that actually relate to that. And if your content also is congruent, more people who actually fit that mold will follow you from that ad. And then the ad will operate off of recency bias and go find more people that who you're attracting. In this case, rich people
Yeah.
that afford your program.
Definitely. And I think another thing too that people get the wrong headspace around when it comes down to content is always focusing on the views, the likes, the comments, the shares. When you make content that's super specific for one type of person, you may only get a couple hundred views. And you may be like, this content sucks. But when I talk about the generic stuff, it gets 10,000 views. I should just go back to generic. And the problem is the generic stuff, again, is probably like we talked about in other podcasts, like touching other parts in India and random places and just the everyday person.
Even if it doesn't, though, like, you're not making money from that, are you?
No, you're not. So you might as well do what's actually going to help you, especially when you run our funnel that we talked about in last podcast. Like when you use our funnel and you actually have this content for the right type of person, as Benji said, you get more people to follow, you get more qualified leads, and more qualified leads start coming in consistently.
That's right. Yeah, because literally one viewer is inherently more valuable than 1 million viewers who are not buyers, right?
Yeah.
So it's the one buyer versus a million viewers, or a million raving fans, sort of like fallacy. And if you like, it would be like, I'll give you an example, right? Imagine you work at a vitamin shop and you're selling supplements, and you have an influx of 1,000 people that come in all at once, but it's because you have like comfortable furniture in the front room.
Mm.
Well, they're not there to buy any supplements then, right? So would you rather those 10,000 people come in that have like no desire for the supplements, but they're there because you have like fuzzy couch, and maybe you have like a whatever, right? But you have one person shopping and they're like there because they're like, yeah, I'm here to get some omega-3s, some vitamin D. And okay, you rather that one person than the 10,000 people that are not buyers. Because
Yeah.
think then, like, are you doing this to be famous and to have a lot of clout, or are you doing this to make freaking money? Like, we have to be honest about those two goals. Like, sure, you're here to help people as well, but you know, you need to make a living. You need to make money. So
Yeah.
what's your freaking goal?
True. And that also relates to what we talked about, before about, hey, you could have 500,000 followers and make less money than somebody who has 1,000 or 2,000 followers. Why?
Exactly.
Because if they're targeted leads, they're easier to convert if they're all the same avatar. Like if you have the same type of person always following, you're probably going to have a higher overall conversion from like message to conversation, from message to call, and from call to call closed. You're just going to overall have a better business if you have that system in place.
Yeah, I totally agree. So guys, to sort of just like sum up what we went over, right? Like kind of the bullet point cheat sheet of how to attract rich leads and rich clients. It's going to be who you're actually targeting, making sure you're not targeting hobos that ride the top of the trains to avoid spending money on the ticket, but instead, the proper age. I'm looking at you trying not to laugh, but instead the proper age range, the proper profession and whatnot there. The second thing is going to be solving more sophisticated problems. You also want to ensure that your Instagram profile looks professional, that you don't just look like a gym bro on the beach. And you want to ensure that your content is congruent with the person you're targeting in your environment, what you're wearing, the words you use, topics discussed, and the situations referenced. Okay. This is going to relate to your content, to your ads, your VSL, and any other sort of content that you put out there.
1000%. Awesome, guys. So thank you guys again for watching this episode of the podcast for online fitness coaches. Now, if you want to learn how we can overall get you 20 clients in the next 6 months guaranteed, or we'll give you all your money back and $5,000 as like a, just say, sorry, honestly, like all that risk comes to us. If you want to learn how to do that, just message us client on Instagram. So just message us keyword client at PT Launchpad, spelled with no spaces. Literally just PT Launchpad on Instagram. Message us client, and we'll go ahead and reach out with more info.
Take care, guys.
See you.